The 1920s and the 1930s were two major decades in our history. However, both of these decades were full of problems. These problems can be categorized under one common theme, specifically out of conflict, community, justice, and wealth. When I took a look at these many problems, the most prominent theme seemed to be wealth. Also, the problems that mainly showed this theme could be made into categories like agriculture, the start of consumerism, and the stock market crashing. First, let's look into agricultural problems. In the 1920s, a considerable less amount of farmers were able to make a living because although the productions of goods went up greatly, their price went down. Because of that, farm commodities such as wheat, cotton, tobacco, and lumber were hit hard in the 1930s. The collapse of farm exports caused many American farmers to default on their loans, leading to the bank to run on small rural banks. With agriculture facing less and less of a demand with fewer options for jobs, areas that were dependent on industries such as cash cropping, mining, and lodging suffered the most. In addition, the rise of communism in the 1920s marked the first time in the United States that the population in the cities surpassed the population of rural areas. This could have been a cause to why states such as Kansas and Oklahoma were creating posters that advertised rural areas to farm, which eventually led to the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, and farming and rural crop prices to drop 60%. Also, since communism began its rise in the 1920s, it was giving Adolf Hitler another reason to be angry, specifically because it was also rising in Germany during the later part of the 1920s. Communism would eventually get Germany completely in 1930 when they officially became communist. This could have led to Germans coming to America because they could make more money using our agricultural time period. This then leads to Hitler and the anti-communism Germans, who used their wealth to use propaganda to manipulate the Weimar system. This helped Adolf Hitler become Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Next, taking a quick peek into consumerism might add some clarity into understanding why wealth is a theme. Consumerism, which is a social and economic order based on the desire to purchase commodity goods in ever greater amounts, began its rise in the 1920s decade. This led to the global 1930s overinvestment in heavy industry capacity compared to wages and earnings from independent businesses such as farms. The government decided to solve this by giving more money to the consumers. It could have also led to the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of July 1930, which was thought to worsen the Depression by reducing international trade and causing retaliatory tariffs in other countries. This then led to international trade plunging by more than 50%. For example, Australia was hit hard by the Depression because of its extreme dependence on agricultural and industrial exports. Last but not least, I'll be discussing the many effects of the stock market crashing. First off, with no one left willing to buy stocks and everyone trying to sell at the same time, the market had nowhere to go but down. Personal income, tax revenue, profits, and prices dropped. During the crash, not only did individual investors lose fortunes, the banking system collapsed too. Banks were invested heavily in the market, and the ensuing panic after the crash caused many people to pull money from their savings accounts, forcing many banks to close. So, during the 1930s, in an attempt to restore faith in capital markets, Congress passed the Securities Act of 1933 and the Security and Exchange Act of 1934. A third problem that resulted in the stock market crashing would be that hundreds and thousands of Americans found themselves homeless in Hoovervilles, or shanty towns they built themselves. In response, President Hoover and Congress approved the Federal Home Loan Bank Act, enacted in 1932, to spur new home construction and reduce foreclosures. After considering all these relations between the 1920s and 1930s, it is easy to see why wealth was such a prominent theme, especially when considering agriculture problems, the start of consumerism, and of course, the crashing of the stock market.